In this video, I'm reviewing the latest offering from Sonoff in an unusual way. This is the dual RBS window shutter controller. It's essentially another tiny Wi-Fi relay which communicates using the new Matter standard and should allow precise control over your window coverings. Except, I don't have any window coverings which operate on AC power, but I do have a different problem to solve: CO2 levels. Let me explain. It all started in here in my study after I installed another exciting new product. Subscribe and keep your eyes peeled for a video on that. I noticed that the CO2 readings in here were ramping up for no apparent reason when no one was in here or cooking anything, and the window was even open on some occasions. And that got me curious, and I started monitoring other parts of the house. Downstairs in the lounge, for example, which is a fairly open plan space, I had exactly the same problem: high CO2, and especially in the evenings. But at least that made a bit of sense when we were in there at that time. So, since I have this new Sonoff device, and even though it's technically made for window shutters, I thought, why don't I use it to control my actual window? The idea: to use window motors to create natural airflow, fresh air in, stale air out. I already have relays controlling my bathroom and kitchen windows, so why not automate the lounge window too? So before we go any further, let's start by getting it unboxed and wired up to test that this is going to work as planned. So if you've ever seen me unbox a Sonoff product before, this should be pretty familiar. Super minimal packaging with a manual inside and the relay itself. You also get the Matter QR code on the back of the device and on the manual inside the box. So first I'm going to set about powering up the device for the first time, getting it added into Apple Home, and just making sure that the device is up to date and working as expected. Once I've added the device into Apple Home by scanning the Matter QR code, I can then put it into pairing mode and add it in the WeLink app and get it up to date. And once that's all done, I also added it to Home Assistant without a hitch as well. Next up we have the window motor itself. I bought this thing from AliExpress, and the links as always will be over on my website. At this point I'm just trying to test wire the entire thing, just to make sure that the motor goes out like so and retracts back in correctly. Unfortunately, at this point I was worried it wasn't going to work because I couldn't get the motor to retract, but it turned out that I am an idiot and I just remembered the motor wiring incorrectly, and a quick consultation of the same motor that I have on my bathroom window reminded me of how I needed to wire it, and it all worked perfectly fine. The only issue that I did run into with this particular setup is that the auto calibration in the WeLink app didn't work correctly. It didn't turn on each of the outputs for long enough for my particular motor, so I just went through the manual process and it worked perfectly. Now the great thing about using a relay like this is it's specialized for window coverings, and window coverings have a lot of parallels to motors that are opening an actual window. For example, you can ask your smart speaker to open the window and it will open it because it's a cover, and it will even open it to a set percentage like 50% and remember that position and move to a relative position from there. So if you then say open it to 75%, it will open it for long enough to get from 50 to 75. So at this point, with it all wired up neatly inside this junction box, I would normally cut to a time lapse of me fitting it. Except for some reason I don't have that. I'm sure I pressed play on my other phone on a time lapse, but for some reason it's not there. Let's just blame me for that. I'm assuming I'm an idiot and move on to showing it in action. So let's set it to 50% and watch the window motor open out nicely halfway. As you can see, I've not done the neatest job in the world of mounting the motor once again. I was hoping it would be a much simpler installation this time, but with the mounting arms pointing directly downwards onto the piece of wood that I've got to mount my blind, it wouldn't stay, so I had to bodge another piece of wood into position to get the motor to mount cleanly. That air conditioning ducting is a work in progress too. But now that it does, you can see here whatever percentage I set the window to, it goes to perfectly. So now all that's left to do is set up some automations for it. So heading into Home Assistant, I'm just creating a new automation with a couple of trigger thresholds for the current CO2 level going above or below a helper that I've created. I'm then creating a kind of state machine that manages the window opening and closing by adding a bunch of conditions to make sure that if we are away, or if the pollen count's really high, or a few other factors, then the window will be closed. And otherwise, if it's the opposite of any of those factors, then the window is going to be opened typically halfway, and we can open it wider if we want to, but it won't reduce it back to 50% if we've already got it open nice and wide. And with all that said and done, you can now see a nice graph of the CO2 level in my lounge, climbing up to the 1200 parts per million limit that I set, and then rapidly dropping as the fresh air travels into my lounge window and out through my bathroom window and the skylight in my kitchen, creating a nice natural airflow. So what started out life as a window shutter controller can also turn into a full-on air quality solution. This new Sonoff hardware might be meant for blinds, but with a bit of creativity, it can literally help you breathe easier too. However you choose to use it, it's a nice upgrade over other relays because it can maintain precise positioning of your shutters, blinds, window motors, and pretty much anything else that relies on AC power over a set time. If you are into smart home products, automations, and things of this nerdy nature, then don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the channel in any way you can going forward using the links over on my website, and I will be eternally grateful. As always, the links to this product and all of the products I've used in this video will be on my website, and I tag them to the video on my website as well to make them easy to find for you. Once again, thanks for watching, and as always, remember, home is where the smart is.